I wanted to talk today about spirit. That's what I was leading up to a week ago when I made my last video. I was actually going to show you a screenshot on my iPad right here, but I'm not going to because I actually have my notes pulled up. But YouTube took one of my videos down because they decided the content wasn't profanity or anything like that. They just decided that it was not true. And I think I was speaking about probably something in the government. Who knows? The bottom line is I find it something that you should learn from. And that's why I thought about it. And it was a good teaching lesson. And the reason is because most people start off in life and you actually end up in life. Scholars of the Vedas, scholars of the Bible, they have PhDs lining their walls of how great they are understanding these scriptures and everything. And then, in fact, they argue I'm sorry, I'm trying to, there. I always forget to silence my phone, sorry. Anyways, so what that brought me to think about is the concept that in Nazi Germany during World War II, there was a lot of people talking about how these Auschwitz and places like this were taking Jews and undesirables and incinerating them and gassing them to death and all this kind of stuff. But the powers that be, the YouTubes of the world at that particular time, censored that sort of information. And so tens of millions of people perished because they didn't, the other people that maybe would have been able to put a stop to it were completely ignorant of what was going on because places like YouTube decided it was inappropriate and untrue. Censoring is never a good thing. Ever, ever, ever. Because you have the ability to censor what you see and what you listen to. You don't need a third party coming between you and the material to cut it out. Anyways, my 2 cents worth, that's not the point of this video, but I just thought it would be interesting because so many people depend, and in actuality, it's like the scriptures and stuff are their God. They don't realize it, but in fact it is because they take the word of the written scriptures over and above the actual deity himself. If God should appear and talk to someone, they would defer to the scriptures and instead of listening to someone with a message from God. That's okay, and that's what's happening to the mass population of the world. But those of you that listen to my videos know that we're not restricted to that type of information. However, as you well know, you listening to this have put yourself in an extremely dangerous position because if you haven't learned how to listen to the Holy Spirit within you, the Holy Ghost within you, if you haven't learned how to discern the truth from lies, if you haven't been able to discern the difference between good and evil, liars and those that are telling the truth, because the vast majority are either lying or they are ignorant of the truth, and so they put out there a bunch of ignorance, and then it's up to you to discern what is and is not true. So when I say it's very dangerous watching my videos, it's because I am giving you truth that I know to be true, but it's not going to conform with the standardized teachings and scriptures and stuff like that. So it's very dangerous. But at the same time, it's so hard to find the actual truth that how are you going to know what is and isn't true? It's up to you. You are the one that decides what and what is not true. And when I say it's dangerous because, yes, I'm telling you the truth, but you could just as easily listen to someone else like me that's leading you astray. So you had damned well better figure out how to discern the difference between someone who is either lying to you, deceiving you through their own ignorance or through on purpose, or someone that's telling the truth. You have to decide that. You are the person that censors what you put into your heart and soul. So the topic is spirit. And I keep looking this way because I have my iPad open this time to try to give me ideas. Not ideas, but to try to put me on task. I was talking to my brother last week in Oregon, and him and I had a hours-long or more discussion about these things because I actually called him up and I says, what is your take on this, Gordon? I mean, like, I already know what I'm going to talk about, and I already know what the truth is, but I have the Holy Ghost within me to discern what is and isn't true. And if you're not exposed to, be it lies, truth, or whatever, it won't jog my memory to bring things up. And so I talk with him, and as always, or almost always, he's spot on in everything he offers me. So, but he brought up an idea that I hadn't actually ever thought about, and I'm going to actually pop that one out there first before I get into spirit type stuff. And the reason I'm going to do that is, honestly, I don't know. Your guys are going to have to figure that out, okay? So the concept of the Tower of Babel is what my brother and I spoke about. And when I say concept, the reason I'm saying that is because I don't actually think there was an actual event of the Tower of Babel. I think that it is a scenario played out like a parable or something of that nature. However, I suppose it could have happened in some million years ago, or who knows. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but what I am saying is it doesn't make any difference whether it did or it didn't happen. The point being is the event did occur in one format or another, and it was pervasive throughout the entire earth. So here's the story behind the story of the Tower of Babel. And so I'm not gonna give you any scriptural references or anything like that, because I am not talking about that particular story. It is just a similitude of what really occurred, okay? So before the Tower of Babel, everyone spoke the same language. That's the whole concept. But what language? Well, it was some refer to it as Adamic language, I believe it was called, referring to Adam and Eve, the Adamic language. So it is mistakenly assumed that this was between the tribes that existed on the earth at this time. But this isn't true at all. And in fact, the language spoken before the time of the Tower of Babel was the exact same language that God would speak to us at this time right now. And what language is that? Well, it's a language that doesn't actually have vowels and verbs and words and stuff like that. It is a way to convey perfect, unfiltered truth from one individual to another. That also holds true to speaking to trees and insects and animals and anything and everything, because God can speak to the water and the water will do whatever he wants it to do. So prior to this confounding of the languages in the Tower of Babel scenario, we were able, when I say we, because we existed at that time too, in a different physical format, a different body, whatever the case may be, but we were there and we spoke the language of God. And of course, at that particular time, we were able to communicate with the plants and animals and everything else. Perfectly, crystal clear, no confusion whatsoever. Then came the Tower of Babel scenario where the languages were confounded. And when I say the languages were confounded, I am talking about every living being speaks a different language. And what do I mean by that? I mean that every human being has their own language, and there are similar languages like English language. Similarly, everybody kind of understands that language to a certain degree, but there isn't one English-speaking person in the world that speaks the same English version of English as another human being on the earth. Same thing holds true with every language on the planet. There isn't one tree that speaks perfect tree talk from one tree to another. Why is that so? It is so because we've been doing this for millions of years, and it finally got to the point where we had to depend 100% totally upon our free will. Prior to that, we did not have to depend on it. We had it, but we didn't have to depend upon it. Now we depend upon our free will for everything. So, using free will, one person may like hot dogs, for instance, and they go, really, I love hot dogs and I like them this way and I like mustard on them, etc., etc. Another person will hate hot dogs. I know this is getting picky, but the bottom line is, every word you're hearing out of my mouth, I don't care if it is I don't care, or if it's light, or if it's hamburgers, or every single word that comes out of my mouth is understood by every human being on the planet, if they were all listening, differently. So that's what I'm talking about, the confounding of the languages. And it requires free will, and it requires faith and love. It takes more than just words to convey the truth nowadays. When I say nowadays, after the Tower of Babel scenario, it takes faith to what am I trying to get at? To forecast into the future what that individual is trying to say to you. It takes faith in their past. It takes faith in the present. That's what faith is. And it requires that. And it requires my hand gestures and my facial expression and all of these sorts of things to convey to you a more perfect understanding of what I'm saying. That's why, might I suggest to you, every YouTube video I flip onto trying to learn something, if I can tell it's a computer-generated voice or animated human being or something like that, like I'm not on there for 2 seconds and I click off. Why? Because it's too damned susceptible to being fake, lies, manipulation by demonic forces, etc., etc., etc. I will not listen to it or watch it. End of story on that one. And that's the same way with, if you think about it, you're reading the Vedas and the scriptures and everything else. You don't have a real human being conveying that to you. All you have is written language that there is absolutely no way on the surface to understand what is being taught. So you have to access all these other things within you. And so now I'm going to delve off into the rest of the story. That was Paul Harvey. You young people have no clue who that guy was. Anyways, so I had another viewer ask me to speak about, he worded it intuition and natural instinct. And there's a lot to that. And there's a lot more to it than what most people are aware of. And so I keep looking like this because I keep looking over here. But honestly, I can't even read my notes because my eyesight's not as good as it was when I was young. Anyways, so I'm just going to go off on that and explain what it is. But in a nutshell, I'm going to talk about intuition. I'm going to talk about instinct. I'm going to talk about intellect and knowledge and inspiration. Those are the things I'm going to talk about. But each one of those concepts, what I want you to try to get out of it is that those words are defining the accessibility to a, like if they were scriptures, they'd say a canon of scripture or a container of information. Those words define a container of information. So put that in your mind as I try to define them. So I'm going to start with intuition. What is intuition? If you could read that, then I wouldn't have to tell you. But of course, I'm more than happy to email anyone that contacts me everything that I have on these sorts of things. But I just wrote this stuff down the other day. Anyways, what is intuition? I'll tell you, intuition is accessing, oh, wait. Let me back up and let me reorder this because I'm going to go to intellect and knowledge first, okay? Because that container of information that we refer to is, oh, that's an intelligent person. Oh, that person is very knowledgeable. That container of information is strictly the here and now of this physical human being that has gained it from their hard work in school, etc., etc., etc. That is what is referred to as intellect or knowledge. And of course, some of it has to do with the capabilities of the brain of the human being, whether or not they've had problems with that or whatever. But generally speaking, that is referring to the physical realm of information that human being has gained. They don't have to be spiritual. They don't have to be not spiritual. None of that matters. It's just accessing the information that's here and now. So that information, and then what's next? Intuition, okay? Intuition, a good example of that is when Jesus spoke many times, he said, you have eyes and cannot see, you have ears and cannot hear. Okay, what does that mean? Well, that means that if you're using your spiritual eyes and your spiritual ears, you can see and you can hear things that are not here in the physical plane of existence. And it's just as clear and crisp as the physical world. When I'm looking at these glasses, I can see what they are, you can see what they are, but then there's a spiritual aspect that is every bit as clear, but if you aren't accessing your spiritual eyes and ears, you're not going to hear or see it. Intuition is the ability or or let me rephrase that, the process of accessing information from your spiritual source. Oh, by the way, I don't want to forget the whole topic today is about spiritual, and I haven't even covered that in the least degree, really, but I'll get to it. But anyway, so intuition is accessing the millions of years that you've existed, maybe billions of years that you have existed, meaning you personally. You have a soul, and it's like a bank or a bank vault. That's what a soul is, and you have been able to place inside your soul information and knowledge that you have put there since the day you created yourself. And so intuition is accessing that knowledge and wisdom. Now, that's not the easiest thing in the world, obviously, otherwise Jesus wouldn't have mentioned these sorts of things. And of course Buddha too mentioned these things, and that's kind of like when they say you need to wake up. That's because you're asleep in this dream scenario, and everywhere around you is the intuition type information, but you're not accessing it because you're asleep. I hope that's clearer than mud. Okay, so I'm going to delve off a little bit on that intuition because you know what? I'm not going to. So instinct. What is instinct? Instinct is now you're accessing information that is biological. It's, for instance, for millions or billions of years, this physical body that I am speaking to you with right now has the ability to access instinctual wisdom, knowledge, whatever it is that this particular body has gained through billions of years of transforming. And I was a monkey at one time, probably, and a bear, a bug, a bird. I don't know, but this has been going on forever. And so that knowledge and wisdom there is called instinctual knowledge. And it's purely 100% physical in that information is contained in the DNA. Spiritually, you can access that, but you don't necessarily have to. All you have to do is allow the physical body to be what it is, and that instinctual knowledge will come out. Some people don't have that great of an instinctual knowledge. And why? Because the physical body that they inherited when they were born came from a different source or whatever. But recognize that when I said your intuition is your own personal bank account of knowledge and wisdom. As I talk and talk and talk, I can see how confusing this can be to you if you don't have a basis of understanding. And honest to God, I am really trying to make this easy for you, but as I continue to talk, I can see that it's not really that easy. But I'm trying to make it easy. So this physical body is just mine while I'm alive. It isn't. I'm getting to use it. I get to use the DNA instinctual knowledge that has come to this physical body through billions of years. But I'm going to be dead, and when you reincarnate into a different body that may have different sources from which it derived. Because think about it. Black people have a different history background in their DNA than do white people. And people from China or that area of the world have a different DNA instinctual information than the others do, in Native American Indians, etc., etc., etc. And so maybe I was a black person in another life, and whatever I learned at that particular time went into my storehouse of my soul. And in this physical body at this time, I put that information into my soul. Does that make sense? So this racism bullshit is so freaking stupid. It's just hard for an intelligent person to fathom how stupid it is to play the racial blame game or being racist or whatever, because it is so damn stupid. Because every one of you have been every single race at least once, and if not, you're going to be in the future. It's just dumb to have a racial divide. It's just dumb. And now the next step, wow, am I going off on tangents? This one people are not going to like, but I'm going to bring it up because it just popped into my head. So, and it's just like instinctually, at one time you were black, and another time you were Oriental, and another time you were this or that or whatever. You may very well have been male and female, okay? So maybe you've been female many, many, many times, and now you're born as a man, and you don't accept the fact that you're a man. So starting in your early years, you go, you know what, I don't like this. I'm going to transgender back to being a woman because that's what I used to be. Okay, doing that, I hate to use the term "you're not playing the game" because I've never really liked that term in spirituality, but in reality, it's kind of like it. You're not playing the game correctly. I know I have relatives in my own family that are gays and lesbian and such, and I absolutely love them, and it just is what it is. But if you can't accept the fact of what you have been born into, you already have a type of delusion that inhibits your ability to understand the higher spiritual things. I told you a lot of people won't like this, and that's what I feel like they won't like, that have a proclivity for that sort of thing. But I'm here to tell you, I'm not pulling any short strings here. I'm telling you the absolute truth. If you have an issue with LGBTQ and sometimes Y and all of that stuff, I am telling you, you are going to be inhibited from understanding and accessing the highest truths. End of story. You can disagree, you can deny, you can do whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is, if you can't accept what you've been born into and just go with it, that's your experience in this life. Well, you could say, well, it's my experience to transgender or to be gay or whatever. Okay, that is your personal free will, just like it's the personal free will of someone to go kill somebody else. But that doesn't make it right. It just means you are accessing your free will to choose to go against the DNA at which you've been born into. So if you've already decided to not access your intuition, because that's what you're doing, you're completely divorcing yourself, and then the thing that Jesus talked about, you have eyes and ears and cannot see and hear. Well, I assure you, you're not going to be able to see and hear if you are in that lifestyle. And beyond just that lifestyle, you're also cutting yourself off if you have issues with promiscuity and stuff like that. Wow, and I'm off on another tangent because as I just said that, I'm sorry. I hope this video moves along and ends eventually, but I just came up with another tangent that I wanted to talk about real quick, and that is I've been watching videos and stuff like this, but I recognized it for the first time probably almost 20 years ago. It's extremely pervasive nowadays that men and women do not combine. In other words, form marriages. I guess women have been taught to be free agents with sex and everything else, and they have decided, well, I don't need a man, etc., etc. Well, that's all fine and dandy until they're like 30, 40 years old, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second, I don't know that I want to be alone my entire life or whatever, and that's causing huge problems. Well, the fact is, unless it's like winning the lottery, you're going to be alone the rest of your life if you've squandered your youth by pretending that you're going to live to be 10,000 years old. You're not. You are born into a human physical body, and whether you like it or not, every freaking day 24 hours pass. Every single week 7 days go by, and every single week your body gets 7 days older. There isn't a damn thing you can do about it. And if you think you're going to play games and have fun and all of this stuff and squander your youth, and then think, oh, well, I'm going to settle down when I get to be 30 or 40 years old. No, you're not. You've already squandered it. Unless you win the lottery somehow by finding, when I say lottery, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about winning the lottery of actually finding another human being that you can team up with, form a marriage or whatever. But to think you're going to have children is probably not going to happen, because the human body doesn't really play well with having children past, say, 30, 40 years old. So I wanted to bring that up because people are so screwed up nowadays. Both men and women, so screwed up nowadays. They don't have a damned clue as to how they should function and everything. I'm going to tell you how you should function. Again, this is something you're probably not going to like, but I don't care. I'm going to tell you the truth. The truth is, men and women are a team. And in a team, there may be a leader, but that leader can change roles now and then. I mean, like, generally speaking, in a marriage, a man is the team leader. That's just a given, because we live in a physical world that is extremely dangerous, and there's all kinds of bad things happening. The physical man happens to be a lot stronger than the woman. But as a team, you have to work together or you will fail. Because women have been blessed equally with men. In other words, if you were to say, this is the perfect man, he has 100 points. Now, let's say you're going to be one with God, okay? And you have to have 200 points to be one with God. But the best perfect man, let's call him Jesus, for instance, the best perfect man has 100 points. The best perfect woman has 100 points. If you bind those two together, you have 200 points, and you're going to become one with God. But if you don't, and you're perfect, you still only have 50%. And if you know how grades are given, well, you would fail. What is it? 60% is fail rate or something like that. So you would fail miserably. But of course, in Jesus's case, he was either married prior or will be in the future. That's not that big of an issue, because everything is not restrained to one single lifetime. So, but what I'm telling you is the perfect union is a team. And you have to work together. And if you think you can screw around and treat that relationship with disrespect or betray each other or whatever, and that you're going to get a divorce and start all over again, you got another thing coming, because it gets exponentially more difficult as time goes by. In a marriage where they just happen to be biologically in a union, that's not a perfect marriage. That's just a union of convenience. Maybe both people like the sex, and so they endure each other or whatever. That's not a perfect union. A perfect union requires absolute pure love from one another. And to think that you're going to go through life in a marriage and everything's going to be hunky-dory and everything's going to work out. No, it isn't. It's going to be so excruciatingly difficult that you can't even fathom how difficult it is going to be, because it's just like life. It's just like life. It's like if you're playing a basketball game and you want to be a ball hog, the other person is going to hate you. You know, why don't you give me some time with the ball? Does that make sense? So you have to work together and have absolute respect for each other and get it out of your damn mind that divorce is an option. Of course, it has to be an option if you accidentally screwed up and married the wrong person, or that person used their free will to go out and murder people or cheat on you, because actually cheating is a betrayal that is, in my opinion, unforgivable. In other words, there's no point other than convenience of staying married. You might as well throw in the towel and try it again in another lifetime, because once you betray your spouse, you can no longer, that's it for the rest of your life. You've done screwed yourself. It's kind of like when they talk about the sin against the Holy Ghost. To think that that's forgivable and your other spouse is going to trust you emphatically like you would trust God. Think about it. What if God betrayed you? Are you going to trust God again? Well, of course not. Why would you? Anyways. Wow. Okay, off that tangent. And now the next one is, or the last one is inspiration. What is that? Inspiration is a kind of special, remember I was telling you information comes in a box, so to say? Is that inspiration in your history, in other words, in your soul? Is it? It can be, but not necessarily, because inspiration is like a person that prays to God. Oh wow, another tangent. You know how people say, oh, you've always been enlightened and blah, 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 blah. And I say, bullshit, that absolutely isn't true. And so what I'm getting at is inspiration. To say that you've always had that and it's always been accessible to you is absolute lie. That isn't true, because inspiration is like asking, praying. Some people do it totally unknowing what they're doing. They're like meditating, trying to become inspired to do art, for instance, or whatever it is. They're getting information from other demigods, from other spiritual sources, from God, maybe from their highest spiritual being, but it's infusing information to you that you absolutely 100% must ask for. Be it asking for it by simply meditating or thinking or whatever it is, but you have to ask for it. If you don't ask for it, it's never going to happen. And that's what intuition is. It's like intuition is coming to you from maybe higher spiritual beings. People talk about angels and angelic forms and stuff. I suppose the same thing could be said about the evil side too. You could be inspired by satanic forces and stuff if that's what you desire to listen to, and then go that direction. I suppose that is similar. You could call that intuition, but of course I don't go that direction. So okay, now spirit, the very last thing. I'm looking at my thing. Yeah, the one thing I wanted to, and I've talked about this before, but everything in this physical reality that we live in is symbolic. Everything is symbolic. Your physical body is symbolic. The sun in the sky is symbolic, because an enlightened person knows that 100% of all physical, and when I say physical, I'm talking about things that you can't see, like gravity, electric, all of it. Literally everything is an illusion. And so the sun in the sky is an illusion that is to teach you something. And what it's teaching you is the sunlight that comes to you during the day that helps you see, it warms you up and everything. The sun is like the individual, like yourself, your essence or whatever. The sunshine is your spirit. So spirit isn't an individual. So people that say the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, and the Holy Ghost is a separate individual that is a spirit or whatever. Pure bullshit, totally untrue. So a spirit is an emanation coming from a real source. So you could say the sunlight is the sun. Well, no, it isn't the sun, but it wouldn't exist if the sun wasn't there. And so when we talk about spirit, or the spirit of this or the spirit of that, it's like if you take one candle and go 10 miles out and it's dark at night, can you see the one candle from 10 miles away? No. But if you have 1,000 candles, can you see it? Probably. And so when people get together on the same spiritual path, so to say, this is referring back to when Jesus said, whenever two or more gathered in my name, I'm there. That's like you're asking for more light to be shed on you. For instance, the essence of Jesus can shed his light, meaning his spirit, on that gathering if they're gathered in his name. The same holds true with the power of Satan. So in this particular world, we are under the rule of Satan, because Satan is the god of this particular world. What does that mean? Well, just like the sunlight that you feel on you all the time during the daytime and everything, just like that, the spirit of Satan is ever present. And this is why it's so easy to commit what Christianity would be called sins and stuff, because the prevalence of the spirit of Satan, it's like if you have a solar rooftop energy or whatever, it takes that energy, converts it to energy, and then you can power your house or whatever. Well, your physical body is like a solar cell, and it brings in that energy from Satan and the spirit of Satan, and it can convert that to all kinds of things that you would consider to be bad or evil or whatever. But the free will that is controlling the body, it can be weak or it can be strong. If it is weak, it may commit all sorts of sins that may very well not be attributed to the essence or the soul or the Atman that is inside the body, but rather maybe that human being, that person, has only been born in the human format a couple of times, and maybe they're just totally weak and they're not able to control the body. Who knows? I don't know. But for me, for instance, I think I've been doing this a long time, because I'm able to shield myself in a way from the spirit of Satan in such a way that it doesn't affect me like normal people. What is that shield? What is that shield? It's love. If you build this shield of love, and when I say shield, it's like it's a spirit. The love itself is like it's a spirit, and it shields you from the energy or the soul or the spirit of Satan, and it shields you from that. Because if there's enough people, you know how they say we live in the Kali Yuga. Well, if enough people change their ideas and attitudes and instead convert to love and cherish and respect for each other and everything, well, this Kali Yuga would be over like that. So, yeah, that's something to think about. I think I'm done with this lesson. Let me see. Yeah, I think that covers it pretty much. So I have no idea what my next talk will be about, but today, where I'm at, it's Wednesday, and so I'll make one next Wednesday probably. Right now, for your information, I'm working on my training myself. I don't know if you guys have ever worked with Adobe software, but I'm trying to teach myself again, because I did probably 12, 13 years ago, but I'm rebrushing up on Adobe InDesign because I want to take a lot of my spiritual writings, and I want to also take the science fiction, if you will, book that I wrote, or the story that I wrote, and see if I can publish it in the Amazon thing. And it's furthermore, it gives me something to do inside my home during the summer here in Las Vegas, because oh my Lord, it is so damned hot outside. We've been breaking records every freaking day with the heat and everything. So it's like, you know what? I think it's time to stay in the house, and I'll spend the next few months on my computer relearning how to do all this stuff. And by the way, I actually enjoy it. There's probably something wrong with me, because I enjoy working on my computer and learning, forcing myself to learn these computer programs and everything. I find it enjoyable. So with that, please email me if you want clarification, because I'm more than happy to answer your questions. I don't get right to them a lot of times because I'm busy doing other things, but I eventually get to. I try to get to 100% of everyone, and answer you directly. So if you have any questions, ask me, and I will do the best I can to forward it to you. Some people have even asked, could they talk to me on the phone or something? I don't even mind that, to be honest with you, except for one thing. Because here's the exception. A lot of times, well, not a lot of times, I would suspect 100% of the time when somebody wants to talk to me, it's about spiritual stuff. And I'm being absolutely truthful with you. Before I make this video, I prepare for a week, mentally, spiritually. I think about it. Before I even start the camera up and everything, I pray, I meditate. Like this one today, I probably spent at least 3 to 4 hours just in meditation and praying and trying to get the intuition from God, the inspiration from God, to be able to present this talk in such a way that it might make sense to you. So if someone wants to talk to me right off the cuff, I don't mind doing that, but recognize that I'm a human being. And if I just randomly talk to you on the phone, you may not be getting you just have to recognize that maybe I'm caught off guard, and now I'm going to have to do the best I can. When I say off guard, I'm never off guard, but I think you know what I mean. Unless I was in a sit-down situation in a group, a Sangha group, or something of that nature, and if that were not the case, then I'm not going to be at the top of my game, if that makes any sense to you. I'm not trying to do a cop-out or anything like that. I'm just telling you that I make mistakes. Let's put it that way. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect at all. But when I make these videos, if I make a mistake, this is another thing I'm going to tell you. If I make a mistake, I don't care. You know why I don't care? Because I actually put this in the hands of God before I ever make a video. And I've been doing this for back when I was the teacher in a church that I used to belong to. I did the same thing. I go, basically, this is my conversation with God. God, if I totally screw up and fall on my face and people laugh at me, I am going to laugh too, and I don't even care. And the reason I don't care is because I'm not responsible for it. I asked for your help and you didn't help me. This is on you, God, not me. That is exactly how I've always done these sorts of things. So, if you turn that around backwards and you go, oh my gosh, this guy taught a super good lesson. How did he do that? Well, I'm not going to go, yeah, I'm really great. Because again, I'm kind of stepping away and allowing God to take over. Does that make sense? People do this weird channeling with satanic forces. For instance, I'm going to say a name here because I don't know if you've ever looked into it, but there's a guy that goes by the name of Bashar, I think it is, and he speaks to some alien that used to live here a long time ago or whatever. I've listened to him several times. You should look him up. And I think he goes by the name of Bashar or whatever. He's been doing it for a decade or more. And there's a good example of someone that is accessing demonic forces. And I don't hold anything against him, and I think it's damned interesting. And I've listened to him, and it's like, and my thoughts are, wow, this guy has some esoteric truth that I'm surprised that he's got this. I mean, like, there's not a handful of people in the world that knows the truth that this guy just told, and he told it in such a way that he goes, it's not me, it's Bashar speaking through me. And you can tell that he does some sort of a transformation of the way he talks and everything else. A lot of people could just say, oh, that's bullshit, he's doing it to make money and everything. Nah, I guarantee you he's not, because there's no way he can have the truth. Because, and when I say truth, people take bits of truth and they twist it up and combine it and able to twist things. So, and there's no need, seriously, there's no need to spiritually connect yourself with some sort of humanoid or whatever, Anunnaki or whatever, that lived 20,000 years ago or is from some other planet or whatever. There's no need to do that when you can go directly to the Spirit of Christ or directly to Brahma. You don't need to go through some other source. Even if you could, there's no point in doing it. And in saying that, no force, an Anunnaki or Bashar or whatever that thing is that he's speaking through or speaking through him, there's no need for that to happen. And so since it is happening, whatever the source is, it's not God. And when I say not God, what I mean is not giving you the spirit or the truth of God. It's twisting things and this and that. My guess is, and it's purely a guess, it's a demon that he's in contact with. But even saying that, I find what he says interesting. I haven't watched him for quite some time, but I'm pretty sure he's still out there on YouTube. And yeah, if you want to learn some truth that I can tell you is so damn unique that there's not a handful of people in all history that has ever known that truth, well, he's got it. I don't know that he knows what it even means, though. I doubt that he does, because I don't think he's that spiritually knowledgeable to know what the hell is going through him and everything. But I know what it is, and a lot of it's truth, but a lot of it isn't. And so when I hear the not truth, that's a clear indication that his source is not tapped into the love of Brahma. Absolutely, positively not. So in that, I am going to close and tell you again, I love you. And again, I told you like last time, when I say I love you, I am channeling that love of God to you, because God really does love you. As a friend, I personally also love you. I love those that do not betray each other. I love those that do not betray me. I love those that love God. And because that love is that way, think about it. To become one with God, you have to love everyone. It has to be a trusting love. Is that going to happen here on this earth? No. Because almost always the people here on this earth will betray you one way or another. It kind of has to be, almost, because we live in hell, essentially. And as such, we have so many challenges in front of us and everything that we have to live such a way it's damn near impossible to, well, you almost have to die defending another individual. And I don't recall ever betraying anyone in my entire life, other than probably when I was, I don't know, 15, 16 years old. I betrayed, maybe my girlfriend, because I was stupid and didn't know that what I was doing was wrong. I didn't do anything. I didn't, really, the only reason I betrayed her is because I moved, my parents moved, my family moved, and I acted like a sociopath or something. And so in that way, that part of me I'm ashamed of. But short of that, I've never betrayed anyone in my entire life. Ever. 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 And even that isn't really betrayal. I wasn't, I was too young. I couldn't stop my parents from moving or whatever, and I had to go with them and everything. So, but nevertheless, don't betray each other. Don't betray your friends. Don't betray anyone. And remember, betrayal is for an individual. The next step above that, the next step below that is like, well, did you betray your country and this and that and everything else? That's below betraying an individual. The worst thing you can do in this life is betray another individual. And the reason I say that is because you can't betray God. And the reason you can't betray God is because you don't know God. It's like you've heard the concept of the straw man. And it's like, well, look at that guy. He went out and he was an atheist, and he did bad things, and he betrayed God. No, he didn't. What he did was he betrayed the straw man. He created this scenario that said, oh, this is God. But it wasn't God. Just because you create that and then betray it doesn't mean you betrayed God. The only way to betray God is if you know God. That's getting back to the sin against the Holy Ghost. Anyways, again, I'm going to close this. I keep looking around because I'm wondering where all my controls are. And I do love you. And I hope the very, very best for you. I hope this means something to you. And I give you the best I have. And I hope to never betray any of you ever. I'm led to what other. This is the last thing before I close. There's a guru that died, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And his name was Adi Da, okay? And I remember he was teaching his followers and everything, because he had a lot of followers and everything. Weird guy, and he was definitely not perfect in any way, shape, or form. And he taught non-duality, but it wasn't really non-duality. But that's not the point of my bringing him up. What I remember one time was in one of his talks, he said, and he made it crystal clear, I will never betray you for all eternity. No matter what, I will never betray you. That struck a chord with me. And it's like, okay, this guy, he may be deluded in certain ways. He may not be fully in touch with God, but he has learned through intuition, inspiration, and all the above. He has learned throughout his history of existence the value of integrity. And when he said he would never betray you, it's like you could tell in his speech and inflection and everything, he meant it. I mean, like Jesus, he would die for those people that he was teaching. And though he didn't have the full truth, and though he taught things that weren't true, he still was not a person that would betray them. And to me, that was like, wow, that he's spot on that one. Anyways, thank you for watching. I love you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.